Good evening, everyone. Michael Devine here, Gray Matters Radio. Another installment of this amazing show. What can I say? What is the show about? It's the first time you're here. Well, number one, what the fuck? Why is it your first time that you're here? But the first time you're here, okay, we'll give you a break. It's a show where it's about being in the in-between. It's a show where if you're kind of sick of being stuck between the marriage of Democrats and Republicans, well, this is a show for you. I'm the counselor for America. That's why I call myself America's counselor. I could have picked a different, nickname, but it's my show, and I kind of liked America's counselor, so I just rolled along with it. Naturally, I can't do this just on my own. I need some help. So I got the armchair quarterback, Bill Reed. What's up, my man?
How you doing? America's counselor. Have you, by any chance, you try to compare notes with, Canada's counselor, maybe?
Well, I would, but, I kind of decided that maybe there'd be some lost in translation. My knows and my A's aren't really all that good, so I was worried that there would be, I would say and they would say A, and it would just kind of screw everything up. So I just kind of, I decided to keep it at about America.
Is that why you brought in a very special Canadian translator?
Yes.
This week?
So when we were looking at what would be good for this show, a show about America, I figured we got to go Canadian. Well, so we have the newest Gray Matters intern, Holly, the intern. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad that I could come in and pretend to be Canadian for you.
See, now you've ruined it. So people would have had literally no idea. This whole shtick could have been Holly, the Canadian. We could have even asked you questions about Trudeau, maple syrup, poutine.
I like to be honest, but I can pretend that I have a great Canadian accent.
So, but here's the funny thing. So that maybe this was a test. She is our intern. Technically, I guess it's probationary. So if you would have lied, that could have just been some really diabolical test where if you would have been oh yeah, I am Canadian, one would be I'm sorry, you're.
Well, I'm just here to tell all the listeners that are wow, Canadian. I'm no, we're American. I promise, I swear.
But you are our newest intern. So thank you so much for being here. This is kind of a quick thing. We interviewed you and kind of made this happen kind of quickly, and we just had to have you here for this particular show that we're going to be talking about tonight. So we'll kind of start diving into it. But thank you so much for kind of being here and actually trusting us, because this could have gone really bad.
I know. I'm glad to be here, make my debut on the podcasting world officially.
See, really, we could have had all kinds of fun things in store for you. We could have had
I'm sure you still have plenty of surprises.
We could. Yeah, I thought about it.
We're not that clever.
Yeah, I don't think my wife would have let me, to be honest.
Right.
If we're letting an intern, let alone a female intern, into our little sanctum, I don't think my wife and his wife would not let us be that mean to you, because we do say certain things, but then sometimes we kind of wait afterwards, going, oh shit, is my wife going to hear that? Okay, maybe
exactly. I'll be here to call you on your
shit. Exactly. So I think that's a selling point. They're going to call us on our shit.
I swear, sometimes I will say things on this program just to see if my wife is watching. I might say a little something, and if she says nothing to me in a day or two, I'm she didn't watch.
Testing. Did you listen to the podcast?
It's a good marital test, isn't it? So, honey, what did you think of the show? Oh, it was great. Fucking liar. You lied.
It's your best show yet. I wasn't on this week.
Oh, did you like the part where we talked about the Teletubbies? Yeah, I loved it. We didn't talk about that.
I talked about how much I love your cooking. I know you loved it. I don't love your cooking. That was the test. I really do love your cooking, honey. It is really good. She's a good baker. Shit, I'm about to edit that one out. All right. So now, one of the things, Holly, so we're going to be looking to lots for you, so number one, obviously you're going to be here to kind of keep us in line, which is good, right? But you're also going to be here to do some good research for us, frankly, we're your job is to basically do the things that we don't know. I'm a counselor, okay? Bill's more of a manager, business kind of guy.
I'm more of a man of leisure.
Jack
of all trades.
Yeah, but don't he's a tremendous slouch. Don't let him fool you, right? So yeah, we don't know anything about marketing. We've kind of pick things up as we kind of go, right? So we're hey, we need you to, so if we're going hey, Mike, cut it. You've talked 30 minutes about it. I can't edit this, or we can't market this. So you're going to help keep us in line and everything. So, but for this first show, we're actually going to look to you to be one of our experts.
Oh, an expert.
I know. I mean, an expert in what? I don't know. Apparently, I'm an expert in something. I think I just kind of bullshit my way around it, right?
Well,
I mean,
you're on the television
psychology.
now, so you can, everyone's a star on TV land.
I know. Gosh. So, but before we get started, all right, so last week, we talked a lot about the Joker movie and how my theory was basically it was almost like a mirror holding, like, kind of like being held up to us, basically showing us like if runaway greed, corruption, the anger of like the Antifa and that kind of left movement, that's basically, hey, this is our future unless we go and do something. And so now, true to form, now I'm not saying I influence chaos across the world. I mean, our show is definitely growing, but I don't know if we have that clout. I mean,
Right.
maybe that's your job, but literally,
That's your job.
literally,
That's why we brought her in here.
so here's what's crazy. So like, if one of the things I was saying was that we've been the power elites in the world are pushing things so much that it's almost like they've pushed it so far and people are finally kind of going, oh, fuck this. And they feel so powerless. They have to use like basically anger and basically like some pretty violent kind of protesting, right? This ain't like the days of silent protesting. So literally just this week alone, we have protests, violent protests hitting Chile, Hong Kong, Lebanon, Barcelona. I mean, literally, all you got to do is turn on our TVs and we see protesting pretty much everywhere. And that, I'm sitting there kind of going, I'm not saying I was 100% correct, but literally, there are 3 dead in the Chile protest. I mean, anywhere you look at it around the world, people are protesting. They're protesting against their governments, corruption. They're feeling completely kind of powerless. I mean, we're talking like in Lebanon, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets to protest their governments. You can't help but look around the world and kind of see that people are angry. People are finally having enough of it. And it is creating this sense of instability, which I think, I'm not saying it scares me. I think more for me, it's like, I told you.
I think a lot of it's or some of it is, I think, the internet too. Like, so one country might see another country is standing up to their government, whether or not they overthrow their government or they get a real change. That's a different story. But they say, okay, the people of this country are standing up, and you see that what their brutal maybe dictatorship's doing or their unfair government's doing to them. But at least they had the guts to stand up. We should rise up. I think the internet in that respect is a good thing. I know I put down the internet a lot on the show, but I think in that respect it can be good at spreading good ideas.
Well, there's so many like countries that'll like block out
Yeah.
people's posts from the internet, so they can't even see some of the stuff from America.
They got to get like information second and third hand, and right.
Oh, it's crazy. It's interesting. One of my good colleagues, he's gone to Cuba 2 times over the last, let's say, I think 15 years. And he said it was crazy. It was like 15, 20 years ago, they literally smuggled in a modem so they could communicate with them after they left. And it was like AOL, but you couldn't get anything. It was like very minimum, right? And he goes, they went back 2 years ago. Now, the very same street where everybody was playing soccer, talking, and whatever. Oh, no, everyone was there, but it was eerily quiet. Everyone was staring down at their phones. And then mysteriously...
Where does that sound like?
Well, here's what's interesting. He goes, now all of a sudden, pornography addiction, all these problems that were never there are all of a sudden there, just in a span of 15
Well,
years.
again, that's the evolution of the internet. I mean, the internet, the good news is, like I've said before, the good news is the internet, gets people more in contact with other people. The bad news is it puts more people in contact with other people. It just depends on it, what you use it for, what it uses you for, however you want to look at it. There's good stuff, bad stuff. It's a double-edged sword. It's good. I think maybe when the internet came out, that wasn't fully thought of. I think they were just like, you know what, we
could do anything.
They were so happy to put out what they did because it's an amazing creation, obviously. But I don't know that they thought through or thought that this would happen, these kind of repercussions.
I don't think anyone did.
Well,
to be honest,
we were talking about before we were on the air, we were talking about white supremacists. And before, 20 years ago, if there was a white supremacist rally, it was a bunch of inbred, redneck guys who met up in some barn somewhere once a month and whatever. And now it's they're fighting each other online and they're they are organized and it can be scary. I mean, the same thing can be said though, like we said with the protesters in Chile. It can be a good thing though. It just depends on what it is.
Not even what people use it for. This is like, God, I don't know how many episodes it was. It's crazy when we've done like 50 some odd episodes. It's like, wow, it's been like a year of doing this. Not too bad, right? But we had he was an operative. He did PSYOPs for the Army. And when he got out of the Army, mysteriously, all the campaigns wanted to hire him. Their job was how do we use psychology to basically manipulate people into
influence them,
right?
Influence, not manipulate.
I mean, the thing is, when I was in grad school, like it was literally like it was like the same year. It was like our third year where literally we had the Air Force, Army, we'll say a certain nameless alphabet letter intelligence agency all started recruiting us. We'll pay for all your student loans, and that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take our ability and our knowledge and know-how of trying to understand people, how they perceive the world, emotions, and instead of using it for good, how can we use it to change the hearts and the minds of...
Well, I mean, everything's always influencer this, influencer that. Like all the big popular people on Instagram, they're not called whatever, they are social media influencers because people can buy an ad and they can post one little picture and it might have a little brand of something in the corner and it will be huge now. It'll be like $1 million.
Well, think Firefest. The whole Firefest was literally...
What's Firefest?
So Firefest was
that... I don't know all these
so Firefest was a couple years ago. So it was like this swanky, posh, like, it was supposed to be like on a Caribbean island. And so their whole... So they put a lot of energy and effort into marketing. So they had a badass marketing team where they got all these social influence, like your Kylie Jenners, your... fill in the blank, right? And they all started posting on Instagram, going to Firefest. So it's supposed to be like, you pay like 10 G's and you get like a private hut. So you get to like bottle surf it up. It's all the, best DJs.
Like an island, like a resort.
It was total bullshit. They had no way of pulling it off. Literally, the guys in jail that did it. There's a whole documentary about it.
There's two.
Yeah, two
There's
documentary.
One on Netflix, I think one on Hulu.
And
is it
Firefly?
I watched the
I
Netflix
think they're
one.
called Firefest, or I don't remember what the other one's called.
Huh.
Fire Fraud.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's impressive.
Can we do something like that? Is that completely illegal?
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm all about it. Yeah.
Is that?
I mean, if you got the money and resources to do it, otherwise it's going to end up like Firefest.
Is that frowned upon?
That was the whole point. It's like they couldn't pull it off. They kept faking and lying about it, and it's like they were able to pull it off and get all the people there, but they couldn't actually pull off the logistics of actually doing it.
It's like a Ponzi scheme for vacation.
There was, I think it was either last year or the year before, I don't remember, but another sort of circumstance happened like that with
it was like Chicago, right, or something.
Well, I was talking about this YouTube sort of thing. This girl Tana. She's like this big influencer. I can't pronounce her last name. It's Mojo, Mongo. I don't know. I think it might be French Canadian.
We're gonna call her Mongo. I don't know.
That works. And so she had this TanaCon, and it was like this big convention. Like, come meet all of your. Yeah, she named it after herself.
Oh, I was gonna say, is it like for like tanning bed enthusiasts?
Wow. And she made this like big convention, like, you can meet your favorite celebrities that are on YouTube, and like all these meet and greets, and they'll have like panels, and they had people out in the sun for like 4 hours because they oversold tickets. They had it in like the lobby of a hotel. Like 12 people got in. People got sunburns. People are traveling from all over the country. Wow. Could not get in. Wasted money on their tickets. Wasted money on their hotels. So I mean, the influencers are just crazy.
It is insane. But you see how quickly, right?
Right.
And so the thing is, like, and what we're going to, like, what teed this particular conversation up. I know I've been railing on the Orange Mist, the Trumpster last couple of weeks. I mean, I can't help it.
Again, you call him the Trumpster.
Why? It's a term of endearment.
When we started this experiment,
I call you Billy Ray.
That's
a term of endearment.
You don't like Trump, which is fine.
It's not that I don't like him. It's just that
it's okay.
I find him a morally reprehensible human being that represents literally the lowest common denominator of the human condition.
Now, when you started this little
project,
that's
not bad. I mean, you're neutral here. Is that bad?
Is that
mean I hate him, or is that just?
I mean, I think a lot of people don't like him because of all the social issues that are going on.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a concession. Is that you can call Trump
just one concession. All right.
If you make this concession, if I am allowed to continue to call Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas without any kind of repercussions, is that a deal? Can I call her? Is that okay? Without any I like it funny.
Calling him like the Trumpster and then versus like Pocahontas.
Oh, come on,
it's kind of different.
Even if you support Elizabeth Warren, that was a little bit funny. Just a little bit.
That was a crazy period of time.
No.
I think a lot of people have forgotten about it.
I'll never.
He still calls her it.
Then I know a lot of people that I've seen, like, people just completely push it away. They don't.
Yeah.
Because there's so many
He's
other different
just
issues.
kidding.
No, but it's
Let's see where he goes with this, guys.
We
you know?
are able to stand back though and put all of our political affiliations aside. Whether you like someone, you hate someone. There are certain times when any politician makes fun of another politician, whether you like that politician or not, where you can laugh. You can laugh and be like, yeah. Like when people call Trump the orange, orange.
Right. So here's why. And
like,
this
he
is,
does look like a Cheeto. That's not the,
so this
but
is
that's not
why.
the point, you know?
This is why I can't say. And this goes right into today. All right. So normally I love politics. Poli-sci is my minor. I've always joked around about trying to get in politics, and so I'm real passionate about it. All right. But the thing is, as a clinician, I look at I'm in the trenches. I mean, I get to see what happens, the net effect, the downstream effect of what's going on in this country. And this ain't just a Trump thing. I even though I think I go after Democrats as a whole, and I just go after Trump individually, but I think I go after both sides pretty damn equally. But the thing the whole reason why I did this show, and I don't think I told you this, Holly, in our interview, that the whole reason I did this show was that I was getting to a place where I was so angry and frustrated, and I kept seeing these things where I remember very vividly I had a parent call me and basically saying we're really worried about our son, his wife had I think she was pregnant, 8 months pregnant. He almost attacked her, arguing about politics. He was so worked up. Now, he was a liberal, right? So worked about Trump and what's happening. And then they tried intervening, and then they almost attacked him. They had to call the police on him, right? I had client after client after client after Trump was elected, almost having panic attacks, right? Now, I'm not saying that some people were a little overworked up, especially in the beginning, but there were things I was seeing where, when I moved back to Ohio, there were friendships that they survived bad things. I've seen friendships survive infidelity, stealing. Well, not to say stealing, but just I've seen a lot of bad things, and
shadiness in general.
Yeah, shadiness in general. And none of that was enough to ruin a friendship. But that election pitted people, right?
Well, you know what it was? It wasn't just the election. That was a big part of it. I think social media. And so someone puts up their feelings on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Why? This person's awesome or this person sucks. Or it doesn't matter what it is. And then someone who obviously doesn't agree goes, yeah, but... And it might start off as kind of a joke, but then eventually they go back and forth. And eventually someone starts taking it seriously, or both sides do. Or I've seen where people's spouses have kind of come into the defense and they've taken it seriously. And next thing you know, people that have been friends for 5, 10, 20 years, all of a sudden... People have unfriended people. We've known this. We've known people have unfriended each other, blocked people, been like, fuck this person. And you're just like, do you really think that Hillary or Donald Trump or anyone running, do you think they really care about you? They care about you enough to where you're going to lose your friend?
Well, I know a lot of times when I've been on social media and I'll see someone post a bad opinion and it's basically about it's more on the social issues, and they're like, I can't believe all this, then I won't necessarily unfriend them, but I will unfollow them so I don't see them in my feed, because I've had multiple times with all of these sort of things that's been going on these past couple years that I've been on my phone scrolling, and I was like, I'm feeling overwhelmed because so many people are angry and everything can affect me, but it's different. So I just have to set my phone down, and it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's mainlined into us, and it's delivered to us in a way that has the maximum impact and maximum emotional impact. And that's why, and you're right, Bill, this election was the first election where it was mainlined into us, right? And so I finally was like, I'm done with this. I'm sick of this. And this is having profound negative effects. And it isn't some Machiavellian, the ends justify the means. This is really fucking people up. And so then literally I've been saying this and shouting it, and people are like, oh, well, you're just a therapist or whatever. And I'm just like, no. And so literally, yesterday, a study came out in the CDC, and this is the exact thing I've been talking about. So literally from 2007 to 2017. So usually they're always about a year behind with mental health. So right now, they're still probably trying to calculate all of 18, right? So everything right now is up to 2017. The suicide rate for Generation Z. Now, Generation Z is aged 10 to 24. The suicide rate increased 56%, now become the second leading cause of death. Wow. Think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Ages 10 to 24, the second leading cause of death is suicide. And what's interesting, if you look at from mid to late 90s through up to 2007, it was the opposite. Numbers were dropping. Homicide rates were increasing. Suicide rates were decreasing. It's been a complete switch around ever since 2007. Now, what's even most scary, and this is the one that should be most sobering at all, from the ages of 10 to 14, the suicide rate tripled to over 76% increase. I mean, and the thing is, like, we're talking about all kinds of future-based threats, right? Well, what about immigration? What happens if they come in here? Dude, like, what are you more worried about? I mean, I got a 5-year-old. I worry more about addiction, suicide,
opioids.
There's the whole problem with like climate change. That's big. To me. That's
a big one to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally get into arguments with people, and they arguing stuff with me, and it is radically wrong, and they don't care. And even if you quarter them into going, well, this comes down to, I just don't think we can have that effect on the environment. I'm like, just because you want to believe that doesn't mean it's not true.
It's
my
happening.
ass thinks I can jump off my roof and flap my arms hard and fly. We all know what's going to happen if my ass does that, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter, and that's the world that we live in. And the reality.
Mike will be trying that next week on the show.
I will, yeah. It's a special Halloween, you know.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, so it literally is one of those things to where, like, how many people are talking about this? Literally, like. We tried estimating, like, between opiate deaths, overdoses, and suicide. I mean, literally, like, this to me is the number one threat facing our very existence, and we don't get a single moment on the news. We don't get shit. I mean, literally, I read this. I didn't hear anything on the news. Yeah. You don't hear people during our debates talking about it. So we have all these people dying, no one talking about it.
I don't even know. I mean, my only guess can be because, I know this is going to sound kind of crazy or morbid even, but maybe because people don't talk about it as much as because the people that obviously commit suicide, like, intended to die.
Well, what I think is that a lot of people, when someone commits suicide, they victim blame.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, they were selfish for dying because it affects me. And it's like, well, they were affected and you, not them in general, but
what do you mean, you people?
But they were the one that felt like they had to leave the world. Yeah. So that's why they want to push it on the people that died, not necessarily that they are the problem.
And this is why, like, I was really excited to have you on, because I always say a lot of times in life it's very serendipitous. And this is something that just came up, and I know it probably sprung on you, like, hey, you got the job. By the way, you want to be on the air tonight? So you're a good champ. I appreciate that. That's a good little test. But the thing is, like, and this is one of those things where I think one of the big purpose of this show is that too many times when we're talking about a subject, we get Bob Johnson from the Center for Whatever, but it's like, why are we not actually talking to real people and asking them what we think? Instead of asking, hey, this person's an expert on the Midwest independent voter, well, how about we fucking just ask one, right? So you are that, because, you're 21, right? Mm-hmm. So you're on that cusp of being a millennial versus a Gen Z, right?
Right.
And so help us shed light on. I know I'll share my thoughts here, but I mean, hey, insights are like assholes. Everyone has one, right? I want to know, like, actually from a millennial, because, you kind of said a lot of times people are always putting words in your guys' mouths. Mm-hmm. So I want to know from you, like, what is it we need to be looking at? And I think a lot of times you look at in science, you can't study the very thing in and of itself. You simply look at, well, what do we know in and around that helps us form a hypothesis as to what might be going on? So shed some light. What should we be looking at, and what are we missing?
Well, I think even what you were saying earlier with the election kind of prompting people to talk about these issues and fight with each other, people maybe felt that they were more able to talk about their problems, which it might be why certain statistics might have gone up, not necessarily in, like, suicide or anything, but people, like, being depressed, anxiety, hurting themselves, that sort of thing can go bigger. And so a lot of thing with self-deprecating humor, so people will joke about it and then it won't always get taken seriously. So, I mean, everybody that I know, we're always, like, saying bad things about ourselves, like, oh, I'm so ugly, all this stuff, and people are like, oh, they're just joking because I'm joking. But it always will, like, sometimes it can go past that line and it's serious for them. Mm-hmm. And so you don't always know who really feels bad and needs the actual help and feels that they can't reach out to get help. Yeah, well, they say it was how they worded it. It was like she was a college student. I guess everyone described her. Oh, she was amazing. They said it's depression with a smile.
It's like, this person, if you look at every picture, every image, she's always
Even
smiling.
if you look at Robin Williams,
Yeah.
it's because the people that feel depressed, they feel like they have to put on this face for other people and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to be strong for them, and kind of battle on the inside, which is why they always call it your inner demons.
So I guess, like, the thing is, that's something where, you always want to, like, sit there whenever you look at things. It's like, well, why is this, unique? So let's say, like, we're talking about cars, and it's kind of trivial, but, like, let's say you have cars, right? Same as that car, right? Same as that, same process, whatever, but, like, every year, like, the defects change. And so you start off really good, but then 2016, 2017, 2018, same car, same process. But why would the results be so radically different? What would you naturally think? Oh, turnover, maybe different people working, maybe they changed a policy that made quality control go down. Maybe they're trying to make them push through too many cars and they're missing something. You would logically kind of think that. So I look at it the same way with ages. Why is it we're seeing, not only is it getting worse, the problem, the younger it is, right? We see 10 to 14, the number is 76%. Think about it. At 14 years old, high school sucked. But I look at 10, I was in what, 4th grade? Seriously,
It's crazy.
And that's things that we did not see. And so, like, what is it that you guys are going through that maybe we didn't go through?
Well, it is definitely, I think, the pressure of social media is because there's even FOMO. You're seeing all these people out having all this great time, and you're like, wow, I'm sitting at home alone and I'm not able to do that. And then in that moment, you kind of like spiral on yourself, and you're just like, well, I don't have any friends. And I think more people kind of have anxiety, which can just kind of spiral from different situations that have come on. So you're sitting there and you're seeing all these people having this great life, and you're like, oh, my life kind of sucks. So you just have these, and it just starts with a spark, and it gets worse and worse, and you're seeing all these things happening.
And that, I never really, that is a pretty, because let's say I was home on a Friday night, you would assume what everyone was doing.
Well, look at these social influences we talked about. Not everyone can't be a size 0, right? Everyone can't travel the world and
Well, so many people are using Facetune, and you can use Snapchat to like post immediately, where you are with your location,
like live, and we're like, oh, what? I wish I was there, and I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. It starts with a spark, and it just kind of snowballs, and it becomes, and someone who maybe is a little more susceptible to depression anyway, it just compounds it. Like I said before, I always say it's a recurring thing. Social media and the internet can be really, really good or really, really bad. It's just...
Well, the thing is, you might be onto kind of something there. So, being the good clinician that I am, like, hey, like, I always say, like, whenever you have a hypothesis, you gotta look at, okay, like, is there data out there that either confirms or denies it, right? And so one of the things you're saying is, so YouGov surveyed over like 1,254 Americans over 18 about friendship and loneliness. And over 30% of millennials were the most likely age cohort to say that they felt lonely often or always, where by contrast, only 20% of Gen Xers said they felt lonely or always, and only 15% of baby boomers gave those answers. And then they're like, well, okay, well, what might be attributable to that? One of the big things that they attributed a lot of this to is that time spent on the internet. That it was, let's see here, it was the younger kind of generation. So those Gen Z kind of folks, they spend, it was like something like stupid, like 90% of their like waking life.
I know.
Somewhat, yeah. And so think about it. It's like if you're looking at a 1-to-1 correlation of each generation has spent more and more time on the internet, how much they base their self-worth, self-esteem, their very reality that they construct.
Well, I think even seeing all those on there, even if you're not kind of affected with anxiety and FOMO as much, then you're seeing things that are in different places and you don't understand what's going on. So you even see people that, wow, I completely forgot what I was saying.
You brought up an excellent point, is that everyone carefully constructs the reality that we want them to have, right? So when we sit there and look at, oh, like so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing that, you see all these amazing trips, but then a month later, oh, so-and-so's getting divorced. Oh, wow, so-and-so was broke, actually. They really didn't have any money. As a clinician, that's always one of the things that I think I get privy to, is that I actually get to see what's going on. Like, I had clients, especially in Dallas, very high net worth, very visible people, And if you just knew what was really going on behind the scenes, I'm talking even to perfect preacher, pastor, mega church families, and finding out people are cheating on so-and-so, someone was sexually abused, so-and-so's a raging alcoholic. I mean, literally, like, it's not real. And when people get depressed, they literally call it Facebook depression. They'll go online, see all these things that everyone's doing, and the only reason they're going on is almost like, it's almost like nut punching or ovary punching, you know, for girls.
Do girls do that, by the way? No.
Do what?
I'm sure an ovary
yourself
punch
in
would
the
probably
ovaries to
hurt, you know.
punish
I
yourself?
mean,
It's more
I
of a.
don't think so. No.
In some
I mean,
circles.
when girls fight, it's more of like hair pulling, and nail scratching, stuff like
I don't
that.
think boys
but-
are going to go for the nuts
Gir-
unless you're really
Girls are
like...
some vicious fighters.
Oh,
off
yeah.
the
Oh,
top.
dude,
Oh,
don't get
yeah.
me...
They will hold that hair and they will not let go. I mean, you can
You
kind
yank
of break them
pieces
up.
out.
I know.
Dude, when I worked inpatient, I'd be like, I turned the radio down because I was the boys unit supervisor. I turned it going, oh, there's a girls fight. Oh, I didn't hear it. Sorry, I was doing homework with these guys. But you start seeing this thing of like, you're right, that comparison and contrasting, that fear of missing out. What do they have that I don't have? That judgment. Even
when you're posting and you kind of see someone saying the same thing that you would say, you kind of feel validated and like, oh, other people are feeling anxious, so that's kind of like that your feelings are real and that you can kind of explore more of what that is, and that could send you spiraling.
Yeah.
It could help you. It all just kind of depends at what brink you're at.
So so this is the thing where it's like, maybe it's just the way my brain kind of works, but I really do think I think all this is very valid. I really do think you're right. Social media, how much time we spend online, just the very nature of creating fake realities, how important all of it is, even like down to bullying, where it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's out there for everybody.
Look at online video games.
Yeah.
They all have microphones. Everyone, you suck, you suck. I mean,
but the thing is, it's like with that though, we have all those connections. We are more interconnected than we've ever been before, but yet every generation, especially the millennial and Gen Z, are the loneliest generation, but yet the most interconnected.
Because I think you're having discussions with people, but you're not having actual interpersonal relationships. And I think there's a
Well, I
big,
think even when you
big
go
difference.
out in public and you're in this big room where you know people but you're not close enough to have conversations, that's kind of like the internet, but you're already at home alone, so, and you're not making these connections, you're just kind of scrolling through Twitter seeing other people's opinions, so you're just already sitting by yourself and you're seeing other people and you're like, oh, I'm more alone because I'm physically alone, but also on your phone alone.
Well, even more like they did this really cool study where so they had people watch an event and have one, so they had them once do it to where they're recording it, another event where they're just watching it. Then they had them go back and recall their memory of it, and not only the memory, but they do the emotion behind it. Hands down, unequivocally, it was a drastic difference of when you watch something through your phone, you don't get the same emotional reaction. It's far less. Like your amygdala, it's our emotional part of our brain.
It's like watching TV, maybe?
Yeah, and that's the thing where we talk about that dehumanizing, treating other people the way that we are, down to whether it be politics, whether it be bullying, whether it be what I drive, what I don't drive, the fear and loathing in the comments section we always joke around about. I mean, literally, it's one of those things to where like, that has a giant effect, but I think there's more at play than that. I think that is merely, the lube, basically, for lack of a better term. It's that has a big effect, and I think it helps us mainline it. But it's like, to me, if we're really looking at it, do you look at the heroin as the main issue, or the syringe that helps you mainline it in there? Social media is just the mainlining. We're still going downstream, and what I think, and this is where I'm really curious to get your viewpoint on this one. So I work a lot with, it's kind of cool, like when I've worked with kids over like 10 years, and so you get to see them get up and older, then you get to see a new batch come in. It's cool. Makes you feel really old going, oh, wow, that kid, wow, he's grad school now? Oh, wow, he's married. Oh, wow, this kid's not in college. Shit, that middle school it makes you feel kind of old. But it's cool, though, because you get this, you see like this change and shift, right? And the thing that worries me is when you look at like jobs, the job market, there's a tale of two economies. We were talking about this on last week's show where it's easy to sit there in the wealthy and they're like outliers. They're skewing everything. But if you look at the bottom 50% of the country is poorer than what they were. And the top 10% is getting even more wealthier. And it is hard out there to get jobs. I mean, you're, an intern, like you're a graduate. And let's be honest, like you shouldn't have to be an intern in a manner that you are for us, but you kind of realize like, It's what I got to do.
Yeah, you have to take what you can kind of get at this point, just so you can get that experience on your resume, so that, because people will look at for keywords and be like, oh, well, you don't have this word on here, so, because they're putting it through a system.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize the effect that has, because younger, like you look at the baby boomers, like they got to their 50s and 60s, whether they retired and got screwed out of their retirement, companies let them off, companies that just left towns high and dry. They kind of realize in their 60s going, this system's kind of fucked. But they didn't realize it till it was too late. It's like the hippies. What happened to the hippies in the 70s? Well, they're millionaires. They realized by the time they could change the system, they had so much vested in it. Well, fuck. I mean, we might as well just kind of work with it. We're not going to change it, right? The Gen X, is our generation. We kind of realized in our mid-30s maybe like, maybe there's a little bit more to life than a lot of this other bullshit. We see a lot of people that focus on money and all that. They're either divorced, they're miserable, they're always working. And we're like, yeah, this is kind of fucked up. And that's why I think we kind of get involved and do what we do. I looked at the millennials, kind of realized it in their 20s after they graduate from college, going, this is kind of fucked up. Like, we're in debt. You guys totally sold us a false bill of goods. The economy is not what you guys promised it to be. And on top of that, you're telling me to invest into a system where I see half of y'all are divorced, drug addicts, alcoholics, fucking miserable, chasing the wind, right? But then you start seeing the these Gen Z and this younger, where I'm getting like fucking middle schoolers, high schoolers, all sitting there going, we all know it's bullshit. And they're depressed. It's like an existential depression of they don't want to work in the system. They think it's dumb. They're very big on like, I want to do what my passion is and what I'm doing. But really, there's nothing in this world. It's all fucked up. I feeling almost like I don't have a choice in the matter. And they're angry. They're unhappy. It's very nihilistic. What's the point? I know that's not the answer. I know it's not even just the American dream. It's just the system. It's not the answer. It's not going to make me happy. There's no purpose and meaning. They're leaving religion in droves. I think they say among millennials and below, it's like 70 or 80% don't even believe in religion. And I think
a lot of that too is like a lot of people don't think that's cool to be religious, whether it is or not. Is regardless. It's not. When growing up or probably even a generation before ours. Like if your family went to church, you were going to church. Yeah. It wasn't an option. Oh, I don't feel like going, or I don't believe that. Oh no, I don't care. Dad, like you're getting your ass in the car. I'm sure that's how it was. I didn't grow up in a religious household. I don't think you really did either. Mm-mm. But I think the generation before us, if mom and or dad was like, you're getting up on Sunday. You're going to church. Well, you don't believe in God? That's nice. Well, tell it to him while you're in church, and then maybe you can find God. You know what I mean? Like that's.
Well, I went to a private Catholic school from kindergarten to 7th grade, and so I had religion class every day. I was forced to take communion. I mean, we weren't like a religious family per se too much. We went on Easter, we went on Christmas, but I think a lot of people, they are struggling to find like the faith when there's so many issues that are going on. It's like, well. Nothing's going good, so there can't be something.
Well, there's almost like too many options too.
Yeah.
Like before, it was like, no, that was. What do? You do church things. You do church functions. You go to church. Where now it's like you can go to church and go here. There's 100 other things.
It's like sexuality and gender. It's like there's 17 different sexualities now.
That's
like
true.
There's pan, there's it's like there's a million different things. There's cisgendered, there's gender fluid, gender neutral, there's androgynous, there's male, there's female. It's like religion. There's 1,001 different things, right?
I'm just Bill. I don't.
He goes by he.
I'm just Bill. I don't know anything.
Yeah, but it's like so. When I see all this, right, and I see this prevailing sense of just dismay at the world they're inheriting, this feeling of powerlessness, it's like this very heavy weight of just depression. It's very existential, and there gets to a point where I can't sit there and go, well, there's a different way of looking at it. It's like, I remember one time I had a client, and he just laid on me like all this, right, everything I'm saying, and I don't know what it was. I think it was maybe just I was a little bit younger in my career, and I finally was just getting to a point where I think I got more comfortable just saying, fuck it. If I'm going to be me, I'm going to be authentic. And I remember just going, I know, man, it's fucked up, isn't it? And then as soon as I said, I go, oh, God, why did I say that? Just validated. And I go, dude, I shouldn't have. He goes, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I go, what
it's big to have people that can kind of validate your feelings so you don't feel less alone.
So speak to that, because that obviously when I saw that, to me as a clinician, was if I'm going to work with this age group, they don't feel heard. And that's something you said. I want you to speak to that of what does it feel like? And what does it actually mean to not be heard? What are you not being heard about? And what is it that the older generations, us boomers, or well, Gen X is what you want to call us, what is it that we need to be doing differently? Like,
well, I think on social media, when you're posting things, it's great to have someone that can understand and like will genuinely listen to you. Even if they don't have the answer, then it can just say, I understand what you're going through and we can go through it together, because that's not, so you're not as alone going through it. So, I mean, I don't exactly have the tip and rule guide for here's what you do to make everyone feel better. You don't have like a book?
I thought I told you that was part of the...
I forgot it at home. I'm sorry.
Fuck.
But I think just...
Strike one.
I think just genuinely listening to people and being there. And I mean, that's even with a lot of my friends. I want them to be close to me, and I'll rant to them about my problems. Then they'll rant to me about their problems, and we'll just be able to genuinely suffer rant, together.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, suffering together can kind of make the good times good.
But that makes me sad though, because and I get life can't be all sunshines, rainbows, lollipops, right? But when I get that prevailing sense of that's how your generation looks at it, is our jobs is to somewhat like, it sucks, right? I'm not okay, you're not okay, but let's learn how to be okay with it. That makes me sad that that's your view of reality and society and culture, that's it. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
pack it in. That's it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe it's being overly simplistic, but if you're like, hey, Mike, if you're to like kind of narrow it down into, okay, why are suicide rate getting higher in the younger generations? It's like, would you say like, no, it's the simplest way to put it. Like, we know it sucks, and the only thing we got is to commiserate and try to maybe make it suck less, and that's sad. I mean,
I think also too, I mean, besides what's going on with our society and our culture and the way that kind of there's almost this sense of dread of the younger generation of, you know, like you said, everything's messed up. What's the point? It is what it is. I think I theorize, because I was reading a little bit about this before we came on the air, was there's a study at Harvard saying that there is a direct connection between people who are happier and the people who exercise. And as you guys know, we used to be the fattest country in the world. Now I think we're the second fattest. I think Mexico.
Number 2.
Mexico passed us, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, right.
We're coming back for you, though.
Right.
Coming back.
Yeah. Just wait. It's America. We'll catch back up, or we'll do whatever. But
the McRib is back out. We're going to go right back the next month. All right.
But my point is, the reason why I bring this up is, and it has nothing to do with being overweight, by the way. That was just a random nugget of knowledge. But no, if you look around today, and I think it starts with the youth. I think just for example, and the other stuff, trust me, all the other stuff is fucked too. Yeah. Like our society, I get that. But I think it starts maybe even earlier than that, before we're even old enough to realize what the world really is. Now, I know kids today are smarter than we were because they have the internet, because they have more tools, or getting cell phones at age 4.5 or whatever they're doing. But I mean, you look around now and you go down to any neighborhood, and you know what I don't see? I don't see children outside playing. I don't see them on bicycles. I don't see them playing basketball. I don't see them just running around. Like, we used to be out sun up to sundown. And we had video games, not the video games like we have today. But I think part of that is the kids are staying inside, staying on social media more.
Well, I will say that I have a lot of friends that are like, when I have kids, they're not going to get a phone till they're 13. But what I've also found is that a lot of like younger parents, or even older parents, once they have a kid and they're like, oh, I have a tablet with a video, I'll give it to them.
Yeah,
and
I
not
do that. I'm guilty of
that.
It's so I mean, really.
I give it to my kids.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's just easier than say, we'll go outside, because then they'll complain. If you give them a tablet, ooh, fine.
Yeah. Well, I think they don't, but I think the problem is that parents don't take the kids out more. Kids are going to love going outside. Like my 2-year-old and 4-year-old every day, let's go outside. 6 a.m. Daddy, let's go outside. I'm like, what? They want to go outside. I'm like, the sun's not up.
If you reinforce it though, because like I'm a big outdoor. I'm a big skier. I love cars outside. I love sports. So we're really big of like go outside. Like this weekend, like we literally went on like on a 2-mile walk with our daughter. We're like, is she gonna make it? Like, I don't fucking know. We'll drag her ass. Literally, we'll drag her ass, right? And she loved it. And so my whole thought was like, well, instead of it being like, well, like, let's not do it, or let's make it short. I was like, well, how can we make it fun? Like, oh, let's give her like a camera, and she's like an investigator taking pictures, and let's give her a bag so she can like take it, and I'll teach her about things and learn about it. And I think there is something to that.
Well, I think a lot of times too is that parents are having to work more, like even if they're like single parents, because since everyone's kind of getting divorced or they're having a kid not getting married, then they don't have these opportunities for these kids. So they're working more. They don't have as many times to make fun times for the kids. And
we hate that. I mean, like Jill and I talk about all the time of like, fuck, like I work for myself, and it's like, damn, like this is exhausting, you know. And in doing this stuff, I mean, like this is like, even though it's like one day, I mean, we're like, I had to really work hard to put a boundary up of like, Mike, put your fucking phone down, like stop being on Twitter, right? And that's a detriment, and hence why we're getting Holly, our Canadian intern. You know, but there is a challenge of that, and it is tough to raise kids, and it's easy to fall into those habits and traps where they get, I want what I want and I want it now, and you condition that.
And they don't get exercise later on. I think they don't get outdoors. They put on weight, which adds to depression, just compounds it even more. And you know, a body in motion stays in motion when it doesn't. I think that's where it starts anyway. It's part of it. I think, you know, another lack. I think it's a bunch of things. You don't go outside. You don't get the sun, which is what vitamin D. Yeah. Again, small things, but I think those all add up. I think it starts at a young age. I think you need to have more.
When you get depressed or you're anxious, you want to like hide in this little ball. You don't want to go do all things. Sometimes you can't shower. Sometimes you can't brush your teeth. Like the basic hygiene things you won't eat, and so then it's kind of just
more of a
snowballs.
recluse.
Yeah, exactly.
And then meanwhile, you look and you see someone like Holly who's out at a bar dancing on the bar top or something, having the greatest time. And Acapulco, having the greatest time, and going, woo! Why isn't everybody here? You stupid idiots! And you're like, yeah, I'm a stupid idiot, man. Why am I?
That's what you Meanwhile, I'm up at the bar. Why aren't my friends here with me?
But here's
what you get for being a social media influencer.
But then the thing is, it's interesting because it's all based on, you know, and this is why I always say, like, we can worry about the downstream things and make changes. Like, I could sit there and go, oh no, secrets outdoors. But I have friends that we got to Colorado over here, and I have friends out there where it's like, it's a life, right? Legal pot, skiing 24. I mean, pretty much like 300 days a year, and it's like, dude, that's the fucking life. But you talk to them going, well, I mean, yeah, but
it gets old after a while.
It does, and it's like whenever
you're probably does.
Well, it's like when you have a swimming pool in your backyard, and you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go in this every single day. It's there, and you're like, I don't want to put my bathing suit on.
Oh, dude, we had a pool in our backyard. It was so fucking hot.
Like 5 whole minutes to put it on. And...
Right, and it's just another thing. I mean, I have the same thing. I have a hot tub in my backyard, and I'm like, I'm gonna go out there every single night, put on the jets, and then I'm like, I could just watch a movie.
Literally,
it's like your gym pass.
And we'll have to do a good one on climate change. That seems to be something you're passionate about. But literally, like in Texas, it was so fucking hot. Where literally, literally backyard door pool, and it'd be like, it's too fucking hot. Right. It's like, but you're right. We can get used to anything, and that's where I think whenever we break things down, one thing I'm really big on this show, even though I like to rant a little bit, I always like to bring it back to like, okay, like what can we do about it? Because too many times we're bitching and moaning about stuff, but nothing is ever spent on, hey, what are we actually going to do? So I look at like the upstream things, like what can we do as a community? Because too many times, like, we're always pointing the finger of, oh, Trump needs to do this, Democrats, and we can't change that per se right now. So it's like, well, what can we do in our own lives, our own communities, where we can have those effects, right? Whether it be insulating our kids better to, like, learn how to have patience and not have that instant gratification. It's stopping the smell of the roses, actually like, paying attention to the world outside, getting exercise, getting kids outside. I think talking to our children and actually letting them be heard and not talking down to a younger generation. Just like I can talk to someone in their 90s and maybe we don't have that much in common. I'm going to listen to them. Just like a 14-year-old that they have their own things going on. And even if I do think they are being a bit of a wuss about something, I'm going to make them feel heard. And that's at the end of the day, it's all we need. We saw that. I don't know if you guys saw the story of the gym coach, the football coach, that where the kid, he was suicidal. Yeah, pulled a Pearl Jam Jeremy in front of the class, and he and the thing is, like, he disarmed him, but then he saw the kid was so much pain. He wasn't angry, didn't beat the shit out of him because, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, that type of emotion in that moment, he hugged him because he saw that kid was in so much pain. And it was just this very sobering moment of, we live in a world now where everyone is so dehumanized and we scapegoat everyone and they're the enemy, that the enemy. And it's like, no, these are human beings. We saw it with Syria this week where, you know, because of the move Trump made and whether or not we want to agree with what he should have done, we had kids being gassed. And instead of it being, first it was like, well, it's fake. And then when it couldn't be defined as fake anymore, it was, well, the U.S. sold them those weapons anyway. And it's like, that doesn't change the fact that I was literally like, these are Iranian Syrian kids at the, I don't know if there's a local organization at the park over by us. There's a lot of Iranian and Syrian kids and just normal kids running around having a good time. Those are the kids getting gassed. And because they're over there, we mysteriously don't care about some kid being burned alive with white phosphorus. I mean, it's crazy to me. And so how can we start humanizing each other again? And how can we teach that? That's what we can do in that individual level and take those things, right? Realizing that Facebook and all this stuff is bullshit. It's fake. None of it's real.
It's the real fake news.
It is a real fake news, right?
You know, we joke about it, and some believe that some's fake news, and some of it is fake news. But Facebook, social media, for the most part, that's the real fake news. That's, I mean,
it's more fake than anything.
That's faker than CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC combined.
And if like we have to teach our children, like, that's not where we get our self-esteem. Well, even like these little things, they're not like, Daddy, do you think this looks good? Well, do you think it looks good? Yeah. Well, then that's all that matters then.
You walk outside, and then Jimbo down the street goes, "That sucks. Your shoes suck."
Well, fuck you then. I mean, literally.
I know, but that's the way it is.
And so I think it's like
they text each other and say, "Oh, did you see what little Mikey's shoes are wearing today?" Oh yeah, let's pick on him today. You know.
What did you get in trouble for today? They said they didn't like my shoes. Well, what did you say back? Told them to suck my dick. Oh, that's exactly right. And that's the thing. I'm going to reinforce that, right? You know. And I think that's what we can do on the individual level.
Well, I've seen these videos of like moms that will take videos of their daughters, and they're like 2, 3, like just beginning to talk, and they tell them every single day, like, you're smart, you're pretty, don't let anyone and it's like sort of a mantra. So they have videos of them saying that, and they like can't say much else, but they can say that. So if you kind of have that in your head, then it's like, well, some things might hurt, but you at least know from a young age that everything is like, you have those valid emotions.
No, even taking a compliment, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing to hear people that really struggle with self-esteem, and it's like when someone gives them all these compliments, it's almost like that it doesn't internalize.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, just say thank you. Well,
yeah,
okay. You almost see people get physically uncomfortable.
Well, because they have this voice in their head telling them every single day, they're like, you suck, you suck. So if they have one person, they're like, oh, maybe they're faking it, and maybe they're just someone put them up to it. And
even to go further than that, I've had a couple of clients like this where it's like, and sometimes it's weird because sometimes in my head it's like, let's get movement fast, right? But then sometimes, like, what I've always had to learn, it's funny, I've been doing this for, I've been seeing clients for 13, 14 years, and I'm always learning something new. And, you know, it's that sometimes you have to go slow with progress. Because I had a client literally, we started talking about, like, it's kind of like, I use the analogy of, it's like you're like an ER patient. You have gunshot wounds, you're bleeding everywhere. What we do to stop the bleeding is not what we do to heal you, right? And I go, like, you're like, we got the bleeding stopped. We know exactly what we're doing. Let's actually make you feel better. That scared the shit out of them because they felt bad for so long, that internal monologue for so long. And this is like a 16-year-old girl. And they're just like, it's scary to me to think about being happy. I don't even know what that means. It's scary to even like look over. I'm just getting used to not feeling awful. And it's so sobering to hear somebody talk about that, and they know it.
Well, because if you're happy for 1 second, then it might go away in a flash.
And
so
you
don't want to get exactly.
And that's right.
Like people that are like scared of success.
It's called cognitive dissonance. You see it a lot with like those shows like The Biggest Loser and these gastric bypass surgeries where people lose weight really quickly. The human brain has an internalized image, whether it be how you view yourself, whether it be visually. Like when we look at like anorexia, if you were to have someone draw themselves, they could weigh 60 pounds. They're going to draw themselves. They literally see themselves as fat. You see with men now with like, they all have to have, what is that, lower?
The V-line?
Yeah, it's like they all feel like they have to have that. And like you'll have like guys and they're going like, I'm not shredded enough. I'm not yoked enough. And it's like, dude, like you got a fucking 17 pack. Like I don't even know how you have an odd number of abs. Like it's amazing, right? I go, dude, I got one. I got one, and it's underneath everything.
Sit-ups are the worst exercise.
Yeah, it's
I hate those. I would rather do any other exercise 10 times before.
It sucks.
I hate it.
I'm glad I'm not young and have to compete with that, because I'd be like, fuck it. You know, I'm just going to be a hippie.
People are all embracing the dad bod now.
I know, dad bod. Hey, Liz,
it's because everyone in college is getting those beer guts, so they're like, well, make me feel pretty.
Craft beer is all the rage now. So, hey, I totally missed out like 20 years later. I mean, that would have been really in my prime, right? But yeah, that's we have to shift a lot of things, and we're not going to just shift a generation, but it's like raising a generation, doing things differently, shifting some stuff. That is key right there. I think we need to kind of take a step back, and instead of patting ourselves on the back for political reasons of how awesome the economy is, I think we just sit down with our millennials, our Xennials, and go, where's the economy working for you? Where is it not working for you? And really even dive into like the hopeless feeling of what is going on? Like, what is it about the work world? What is it about the economy? What is it about all these things that has you guys so pessimistic, left behind, so feeling you get been given the short end of the stick, and go, let's come up with solutions. Let's do something different instead of just ignoring it, making you guys not feel heard and not validated, because you should feel validated. I help you guys try to go and get jobs. That's part of my job with career counseling, and I get frustrated with it. And it is frustrating, and it's like you have to play this game. And so I think that's something where, well, it's a little more zoomed up, but it's like we can still get people to influence, go, this is what we want. It's making everyone feeling heard in that way, demanding our candidates talk about those things. And then I think on the bigger scale, we have to sit there and be honest with, across the world, the same thing is happening everywhere. The wealthy have been treating this economy and our world, our planet, our climate, like a rental car they plan on turning in at the end of the day, and they don't give a shit about it. And the reality is, and we talked about this last week, of what do they know that we don't know? And when my dad literally is like the most put together guy, and he's sitting there going, maybe like aliens are coming, maybe they know there's some cataclysmic thing, because he goes, if that's to me like an Occam's razor, you know, looking at the most, sometimes the simple solution is the most likely, he goes, it's fucked up when that is the most likely solution that you can come up with, right? And so we have to sit there and demand a different dialogue and go, this is, our world is not working for us. We don't have to fundamentally change. And this is where I have a big beef with like AOC and all of them. Like, we don't have to fundamentally change everything we're doing, but we have to make it to where people are humanized again. You know, Lisa Simpson in The Simpsons had this saying that the capitalist machine is oiled by the blood of the workers, which is like I think a quote by Lenin or Stalin. And the reality is, I think a lot of people feel that way. And just because we say that doesn't mean we're going to be communist. But what it does mean is that, how many Maseratis does a CEO have to have? Mm-hmm. You know, if I were CEO of a company that made lots of money, I could have lived with myself at the end of the day knowingly, like, because I wanted 3 or 4 houses and 5 Ferraris. I mean, I love Ferraris. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Cars are my weakness, all right? There's no way I could knowingly, if my lowest level employee had to work 2 jobs to support their family just so I couldn't do that. So we have to start humanizing that. We need to have a real discussion in this country with our politicians. Whether or not we can make that happen, I don't know. This is why we do this show, that maybe enough people start demanding something different, but at least on our individual level, we can have the effect that we basically need to. So, I mean, it's a big problem, and it's daunting. It's overwhelming. I think as a clinician, I care a lot. And as doing the radio show, it'd be easy to stick my head in the sand and just go, like, all right, well, I'm just going to, you know, drive my Shelby and drink my bourbon and just do my thing, right? But it's like, I can't, like, and it is frustrating. But, you know, we have to do something, and I think it begins with talking and understanding each other, humanizing each other to where we actually care about these things. So, yeah, that's what I got. You know, it's a big undertaking, you know. Bill, any closing words on that one? Nice, you know, no anger, no yelling. It was more of an uplifting kind of,
that was beautiful, man. It was,
really brought a tear to our eye.
It was a postcard. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put that on your headstone when I help bury you.
I like the assumption that I'm going to die.
Well,
first,
yeah, well, I'm a positive.
Oh, I thought you were going to stop it. I'm going to die. We all die.
I'm a positive thinker.
You
Mike.
are going to die. You are going to die.
If I was a negative thinker, I would say that I'm going to die. No, I'm a positive thinker.
It really got nihilistic here. Well, somebody does like cemeteries, but you know, yeah.
Speaking of The Simpsons, do young people do they still watch The Simpsons, or is that kind of like?
I know I do, but that's because I used to watch it every Sunday with my dad. Yeah. He would like record it on VHS tape.
Oh yeah.
So he had a cabinet full of them. So I still watch it.
We know people that do.
We would organize our day around 5 and 5:30 when The Simpsons are on,
and the reruns. Yeah.
Oh god, the thing is, I don't know what we would have done having it now on FX where it's on all the time.
Yeah.
God, that was dangerous. You know. I know we liked you for a reason, you know. You had old soul to you, which we dig, you know. Yeah, how Holly the intern, you've been a good sport. Good insight. I think, brought some really good attention. I think, you kind of see, I think it's one thing talking, about what we do, maybe listening to a few shows, and everything actually being here and seeing what we're trying to do. So we're excited to have you here and excited to see what you're going to kind of bring to the table and all that, But any closing words or anything that maybe we didn't cover, or even laying out a foundation for, hey, this is what else I think we need to be kind of doing?
I think we really hit everything on the nose with just really genuinely caring about how people feel. And, obviously nothing's going to happen soon, right away, but we can kind of listen to each other for now and just hope that it's going to get better. I mean, that's really all that I can say that's going to happen, because we have to wait till people die to kind of let things go on. So
I do have a solution, though. Literally, I have a solution that I think will solve all the world's problems.
All right.
In one show. Actually, one segment to the show.
Is it legal?
Yeah, so
you're not going to kill all the rich people, are you?
No, I'm not going to do that.
I wouldn't pry too much.
I can see it on Twitter now tomorrow going, Michael Devine thinks we should kill all the rich people. I don't think
trending.
I'm just saying, I hope not.
Like the movie The Joker.
Hashtag Gray Matters, Gray rigor mortis, ha ha ha, But
so your solution.
So my solution, all right. So I've been thinking really hard about this, right? And you gave me a couple ideas. So my theory is that, you told me something about you love to dye your hair any color. So I would say that as a symbolic gesture to millennials and Xennials across as us, let's say, bridging the gap between, us boomers, or, Gen Xers, but we'll be boomers just for, because we're old. A sense of trust, like a trust building effort. Okay. And if people see this, they're going to go, oh my God, millennials, Xennials, baby boomers, we can all get along. And it's just going to be like this amazing, we're all going to hug, and it's going to be awesome. You love to dye your hair, apparently every 3 months, right? So my thought is, you entrust us with dyeing your hair. We get to pick out the color. Any color, surprise you on the air, and you trust us enough to pick out something that is not going to ruin your life. And by doing that, I think we create a movement.
Well, I mean, I'll give you the rules of, if it's a crazy color, we have to bleach it first, and I'm going to use good conditioner.
Okay, well,
but that's all I got.
Well, Jill, my wife has all kinds of nice stuff up there. Her mom used to be a beautician, so I don't think she would let us do anything bad.
Right.
But all we got to pick out is the color.
Okay.
Do you trust us with picking out the color? And we'll do it on the air. How long does it take to dye hair? I mean,
hold on. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I'm crystal clear on this.
Yeah, please,
Okay, so Mike here wants to not only have you dye your hair.
Right.
But he wants to pick out the color.
Yeah.
And you're okay with this? You're going to go along with this?
Listen, I consider myself a very bold person. I've done plenty of colors, so I'll just say, I'll trust.
We're not bringing any employment laws, are we? I mean,
that's a small word with a big.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's.
Hey, just so you know, 5-6 episodes ago, I dyed my hair and it all fell out and never came back.
Well, I mean, I've been dyeing my hair.
You think this was by choice?
I've been dyeing my hair for a couple years now. I have some mild experience behind it. Not going to say I'm an expert in that, but I mean, I haven't.
I did the skin bleaching. I actually was a black Marine in 1967.
Okay.
Yeah.
This show
I mean, literally. I mean, I don't know what happened. It just never came back.
That's one of those jokes I was telling you earlier that you would never.
War puts a man through many changes.
There it is.
It really does. I mean. Oh, now I'm gonna get hate mail for that. That was a movie reference quote from summer school. Look it up.
Never a time to wrap it up. I think that just did it.
This is Holly going like, no, we can't say that. God damn it.
We got a producer in the background going. You see?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's wrap it
All
up.
right. So on that note, where we're saying borderline racist comments.
No, Mike Devine.
If you want to make emails, Michael at Gray Matters, not Bill at Gray Matters, not Holly at Gray. Michael at Gray Matters, right? Oh, it's always real, guys, isn't it? Holly's new to it, but
jumping in.
Well, thanks for stopping by for your one and only episode. We appreciate it.
It was,
We'll never see her again.
Yeah, she was our intern for literally 37, minutes or whatever it was. So it was an awesome 37. We got to learn a lot, didn't we?
It was great being here.
Oh, it was so real.
Opinions.
I'll probably have OSHA calling me tomorrow, something about like chemical exposure or something. I don't know. I don't know if my malpractice insurance will extend to the podcast. I may have to check in about that. So, but thank you. We're excited to have you as part of it. I think, we got some cool shit kind of coming up. So we're really excited. We're going to keep the show what it is while you guys keep watching, but we're going to try and make it more fun and exciting. So super excited. So on that note, I'm Michael Devine. On behalf of Bill, the armchair quarterback, Holly, the faux Canadian poutine-loving intern, I am Michael Devine, on behalf of 614 Network, all day. Remember, everyone, next time Stone Ash, you a Democrat, Republican, you're red, you're blue.